Hello, everybody. It's good to have you guys all here. All of us.
Hey.
All 7 of us.
What's up, everybody?
Hi, Claudia.
So much.
Are you an iOS TPM?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Nice to meet you. I haven't had a chance to meet all the iOS TPMs. Since we're combining iOS and cybersecurity, do you guys mind adding to your name at the end? Just put either CS for cybersecurity or iOS.
Sure.
In addition to your university name. That way we can all get to know each other. What's up, Miguel?
Hey, what's up? Happy holidays, everyone.
I'm curious to see how many people we get today.
Wait, so I was just combing my ears a second ago?
Sorry?
Oh no, just whatever that sound was.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just asking people to put next to their names. I'll say this a few times, but could you next to your names, everybody rename yourself to include your university name and whether you're iOS or CS for cybersecurity? Vincent, I can't wait to hear about your first session. You're in the lead. So you're going to be the guinea pig for all of our TPM experiments that we come up with as a group.
Yeah, I'll let everybody know.
Cool. So I'm looking at the participant list. I'm really excited to meet all the iOS people. I'm just gonna give 2 more minutes, maybe, for more people to come in, and then we'll get started. For those who are just joining, could you please put your university name next to your name, as well as whether you're doing iOS or CS for cybersecurity, just because we're combining both groups today. So, I mean, the iOS people probably don't know this, but for my cybersecurity folks, I am now in Dubai. So it's actually exactly 12-hour difference from San Francisco. So it's 10 p.m. here. I arrived about 3 hours ago to be with my family. But so I'm talking to you from very, very far away. It'd be cool if you guys were here, actually. There's fireworks going on outside, so if you hear some background noise, just ignore it.
Well, I hear it's an interesting place to go. Extravagant.
Yeah, there are parts of it that are incredibly extravagant, and there are parts of it that are like we basically have like a mini India in Dubai. And you can get pretty much any type of food, any type of culture, you can experience it here. It's like a phenomenal melting pot.
Has your family been taking care of your pet tiger in your absence?
You mean my pet panther?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have exotic animals here. Oh, not a lot, but yeah, there are exotic animals here. Just for the record, I do not own any illegal animals or a panther.
Condone such practices.
Exactly.
Why are
Thank
there
you for letting
fireworks?
us
Is
know.
there, is it some sort of special day there?
Yeah, so Dubai is known to be a shopping capital, and it's something called the shopping festival right now. And so every day of the shopping festival, they're having fireworks, which is like, I don't think it's, I mean, it's an interesting reason to have fireworks. Okay, so it's 10:05. We have a good grip of people here. Again, please put your university name next to your name, as well as whether you're cybersecurity or iOS. Just because we're combining the two trainings, it'd be nice for people to know. And please turn on your videos if you can. I love seeing people's faces. I hate seeing just kind of a bunch of black screens, which I'm sure you guys don't really like either.
And just so you know, when Seon says a good grip of people, she's just recently learned that a grip is a measurement of amount on the street.
Thanks for calling me out, Charlie. Really appreciate it.
No,
I
we're
know
always, people that think that you're,
with it.
no, you definitely have street cred.
All right, Charlie, would you like to, thank you for that.
Sure, yeah, so let's kick it off today. Again, I just want to thank everybody for going with us through the TPM training and sacrificing your Saturdays and everything. We really appreciate that, but hopefully you will feel like you have maybe a better connection to CodePath, us. I hope you feel like you can reach out to us for anything at any time and do. We like to keep a good working relationship with with all the TPMs through the class, and then of course even after. Some of you who are returning may actually talk to us all the time, so we really appreciate that. And yeah, so this final session is just to kind of answer any final questions you have, do some practice for what your presenting a session might look like, and actually kind of get some hands-on experience doing that. And then, yeah, just making sure that you feel ready for the first class, making sure that we have all the logistics in place. One really important thing will be that we have the information so we can let all the students know like when the course is starting, what day, where they'll meet. A lot of you have already filled out that information in the organizer dashboard, but we need to make sure that everybody has that, because as you can imagine, if we only present that to students like a day before class or even a week before class, we may lose some because they may not be able to make it because of their schedule. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say for my intro.
Cool. I'm just making the breakout groups. Give me 1 second. Okay, cool. So I am going to put in the chat a link to today's slides. I'll walk you through what we're doing today before we go into breakout rooms. It is, as Charlie said, really great to see you guys. Thank you so much for giving us and each other your Saturdays. Well, it's not really for us, it's really for you guys, right? So here are the slides for today. What I want to cover with you is, we'll start by sharing some war stories. One of the feedbacks we got in the surveys, thank you for those who filled them out, is that people would like to hear more like real world experiences from previous TPMs. So I was thinking not only TPMs, and maybe students could also share stories. If you were previous students in the course and there was something that your TPM did that you really enjoyed, maybe you could share that, or even something that you saw that the TPM struggled with. I think it's important to highlight the positives, but also to think about some of the things that might be coming up that are risks and strategies for mitigating those. Then we're going to go into some whys, why we did what we did. I can see you guys all bouncing around on the slides already. Sharing some of our concerns for the TPM this semester, just to see if we can try to hear, so at least Charlie and I know what to look out for and what extra preparation we might need. Then we're going to break you guys into your TPM teams, And we're gonna have you, firstly, make sure all your organizer dashboard logistics are filled out, because if we don't have that, we cannot answer students' questions that are, when does my class start? Where is it? We have like a lot of queries coming in and we can't answer them if your data is not filled out. We're gonna ask each pair, or roughly pair, to pick a week's topic from your course. Pick a topic that you either enjoy or are really comfortable in. And then what we want you to do is come up with a topic intro. So not the actual topic overview, but a pre-topic overview. So how would you prime, imagine it's the beginning of the classroom day. You walk in, all your students are there. Pretend you already did a bomb icebreaker, because I know how much you guys love those. And then how would you proceed to introduce the session day or the week's topic? We're gonna have you do those in your teams, give you about 15 minutes to design a 5-minute intro. And then you're gonna pitch it and actually do it to other TPMs, ideally from another course, so cybersecurity and iOS. And what you're gonna do is give verbal feedback to each other. You can do written if you'd like. The goal of this activity is to give you guys a sense for actually pretending to present, so like a mock presentation, as well as start to hear from each other ways that you can improve. What are your kind of strengths? What are you comfortable with? What are areas that you could maybe work on? Does that sound good to everyone? Can I see a thumbs up if it sounds good? Nice. For those of you who are blocked, I'll assume you're putting your thumb up. All right. So
sorry, just
sorry.
one thing for iOS, I'm just throwing in the attendance link just in the chat right now. If at some point you could just go and just kind of mark yourself as present, just so I get an idea of who was here.
All right, so who wants to go first? Sharing war stories. I don't really like that we call them war stories. I think it's very masculine, but I think it's a word that we all understand. So would anyone like to share any of their experiences TPMing or as a student, and something you saw that worked well or maybe didn't work well from your TPM?
I can go first since I just led a class yesterday.
So Vincent, can you tell us which classes you're TPMing for this next semester?
Cybersecurity for the merit to start yesterday, and there's another one coming up too for Facebook for the veterans.
Okay, and so you started with merit yesterday.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's a good to like practice the day before, like practice the slides, like say out loud, and like maybe record yourself. That way you see how you're talking, and like, because I know like when the first time when I tried it out, I like didn't speak very clearly, but then once you get used to it, then when you do the actual presentation, it would go more smoothly. And then at the beginning of class yesterday, like most of the time we spent like setting up for registration for the security shepherd and CTF, and make sure to enforce everyone to remember their passwords, because a few students have to reset their password a few times, and that's like a lot of work, you know, because they have to manually reset it. And also if they forget their CTF password and then they reset it, then they can't change their password also, so for a CTF. So make sure they remember their passwords. Yeah, and like go over like the course, like what's it going to be about, and the policies. And even though like you do a presentation about what you're doing for the week, it's good to like do like a demo, like we were using Burp, so it's good to do like demo, like how to use it, and then explain what you're doing during the process. That way it's more familiar for them, because everyone's be like, what is this program like Burp, like how you use this? Even you talk about it, it's hard to understand it unless you show them, like follow along with you. That way it makes it more easier for them to work use Burp. Yeah. And then it was a good thing that some students are familiar with it, so they can help each other. That way you don't have to go around and help like each and every one of them. So it's good to have like communication with everybody, have like group working together. So that's a good way of doing everything. Yeah, but yeah, everything went smoothly. Like it was supposed to be 10 to 12, but we ended up staying there till like 2 o'clock. So we stayed a while. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's the first day, so probably the next week should be shorter. Yep. And that's it.
Okay. And did you do any icebreakers, or how did you warm up the group? Like, did you just walk in and you just said hi and started, or like, how did you start the class?
Well, we wait till everybody come in, and then yeah, we did like introduction, like introduce myself and the TPM, and then I had the students introduce themselves and say like, oh, what's their experience with cybersecurity and why did they take this class or why did they sign up for this class?
And did it go well? Did it feel awkward, or
I mean,
people were pretty
it
into
seems
it?
like people didn't really want to do the introduction. Like they're all saying the same thing. Oh, because we want to learn more. Like about 5 or so. Like all have the same answer. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Cool. Any comments from anyone else, or would anyone else like to start sharing?
Well, just one comment. I do think, I mean, even though, I mean, I've taught in various capacities for years, and I will say that that introduction thing is just inevitably a little bit of an awkward time. But I think it is really necessary. And a lot of times that's, if somebody is, you know, hesitant to share kind of why they're in the class, that's okay. I think the main goal is really just to have people actually practice opening, you know, their vocal cords during the class. I think that's really what you're getting out of it more than you're actually getting why they're in the class. I mean, sometimes you may get some really good insights on that, but if you don't, just remember like that's now that person by talking has given themselves now permission to speak in class, which is really important. So the longer you go in a class where you've never spoken, now it's like the barrier to finally speaking is increased. So I think as awkward as it is, you just have to do it. So that's great. I'm glad you did that.
All right, would anyone else like to share? For those of you just joining, also, whose iPhone? iPhone who just joined recently? Do you have a name? Okay. Would anyone else like to share their experiences, either TPMing or as a student who had a good TPM, or maybe things that they didn't like so much that their TPM did? Okay, quick show of hands, who has already TPM before? Okay, I can't see the other people, but Siraj, do you have anything you'd like to share from your experiences? What was it like TPMing? Where, and you did it a year ago, right? It was spring 2017?
Yeah. From my experience, actually, I was a student before that, and one thing that I found really useful from my experience as a student was our TPM at that time was actually like follow up with each of us individually in class. But I think we actually had more than one TPM, but like we would actually get followed up individually each in class. So that's something that I've actually been trying to do as well when as a TPM, and it somewhat works well because like I find out that some students are like lagging behind, like especially in the beginning when people were trying to understand what like optionals were. Like it was explained, but then some students still didn't understand that after like maybe like a week or so, and they were kind of just going along with everything without understanding it and like asking questions. So following up with people individually really helps because they feel more I guess like willing to ask you the questions that they didn't want to ask in front of the class.
Yeah, that's really good. So how do you follow up individually? Do you walk up to them and ask them, or do you message them, or what does it look like?
I usually walk up to them and ask them. So like in class, like I think I usually did it during lab times. So like on Tuesdays we'd have our like a little mini lecture where I'd introduce them to a topic and then they'd be working on their assignment. On Thursday, well actually no, it would be during the assignment time. So while they're working on their assignments and stuff, I would just go up to them and each person and be like, hey, is there anything that you're struggling with or anything you need help with? And I usually spend like 5 to 10 minutes with each student figuring out whatever is going wrong. And then I also left it open, and students, I told them they could just Sorry. I told them they could just message me on Facebook or email me. So I had a few students doing that as well.
Yeah, that's really good insight. One of the things that I also find is difficult is, especially once you've gone through a class a couple times, you start losing a good baseline for what you didn't know before the class. And so I'll just use the example of, say, optionals in iOS. It's something where in the beginning, it's really, you're like, wow, what is that? Or it's kind of, tricky to understand, but then, you've worked with it now personally yourself, and you're like, you start kind of assuming that the whole world knows this, like it's common knowledge. And I think that's one of the most difficult things I think to do is kind of try to, rewind back to like what you didn't know before the class. And then also there tends to be this kind of, there's a story, it's a children's book, I think it's called like The Emperor's New Clothes or something like that. But essentially the idea is where, the emperor is walking, he's really naked, but everybody thinks they should be seeing clothes on him. So they're kind of like, yeah, I see clothes. And then everybody else is like, oh, well, gosh, if I don't see clothes, maybe I just don't get it or something. So they all kind of pretend that they do. And so I think you can have the same thing happen in a classroom too, where, because as students, I mean, even when I'm learning something new, I'm all, it's kind of terrifying to think like, gosh, what if I'm the only one in here who doesn't get this? Or is there something wrong with me? Or am I slow? Or something like that. And so that can really, really be a barrier to students, basically advocating for help or actually saying, they don't know something. So I think Suraj's technique of kind of going around additionally individually, that's where you're going to find somebody who didn't raise their hand when you say to the whole class, all right, are we all understanding optionals? And everybody will maybe essentially kind of indicate that yes, they are, but then you go around individually and you find out more, you ask some kind of probing questions, then you kind of find out the real story. So I think that's a great technique, Suraj. Thanks for sharing that.
So I'm just curious, would people feel comfortable doing that? Would you feel comfortable going up to students in the middle of class or after class and asking, how you doing? Where are you guys at?
Yeah, I do that all the time. Like yesterday, that's why I did just walk around, look at their faces, like do they look confused or something, then just go up to them, like, do you have a problem with something? Or like, see what they're up to and then see if they stuck with something. Yeah, it's a good way to walk around, look at their faces, or like, when these look like they're stuck kind of face. Yeah.
The stuck face.
Yeah.
Also too, I think, if you ask somebody like if it's too general, if you say, are you having any problem with optionals? Or if it's just kind of vague, if it's like a yes or no, then it's really easy for students to just say, oh, yes, I'm understanding or whatever. So a lot of times I'll kind of just even do prompting things. Like I'll go over and, to a group and I'll be like, okay, Joey, so can you, tell me a little bit about why do you think we even use optionals or something where it's, kind of getting somebody to explain it, because somebody also may think that they understand it, but then they don't. So, really put your teacher hats on and, kind of go and sometimes asking somebody, do you understand or do you not, is not as effective as just kind of requiring them to maybe generate an example of what they think they understand, and then kind of end discussing that too.
Would anyone else like to share TPMing experiences?
Well, this is like my first time being a TPM, so I'll like speak from the standpoint of like a student. But being like extremely accessible was like really helpful. Like being able to like look towards the TPM and like ask them a question very easily instead of being like intimidated or like scared, or for like whatever reason just like not be able to ask the question. So I thought that's something that our TPMs in CCNY did very well.
I think that's a really good point. When you have a situation of where you're in a traditional classroom where you have, say, a professor and students, you go in, there's this automatic assumption that, there are these kind of different roles, that, the professor knows this and that their job is to kind of explain it to you. And that's already set up. Here, where we have essentially peers kind of teaching other peers, I definitely could see where somebody else might maybe feel more intimidated, as far as letting it kind of be known that maybe, they know less than the TPM. They may not be comfortable with that initially, or they may like ask them this, then does that mean I'm kind of, I don't know, is there some sort of weird, or is there some sort of hierarchy between us as peers? So I do think that, yeah, probably because it's a peer-to-peer thing, a TPM would have to kind of really go out of their way to really create that vibe of, that's exactly what we're here for, and everything. And so is there anything, Miguel, that you felt that that you said the TPMs and CCNY are really good at that. Can you give me any examples of ways of promoting environment?
So they were never just like sitting down at like a desk and just like waited for like students to come up and like give questions. They were like sort of like walking around, I guess, like talking to the students, just being accessible, like not behind the desk and just like waiting for people to come by. They were always just like around and like talking to us, giving us conversation, helping us when we needed it.
Yeah, just another example, because I've taught, our iOS course many different times for some of our professional designers and for Facebook interns and such. And I mean, we all have our different styles, but me personally, and this is kind of the same thing I did in my high school classroom, is I'm up in their business. Like I am circling around, if I like to sit them, if possible, in small groups that we call pods, but I circle around, I'll just pull up a chair and I'll just kind of, hey, I'm in your group now. And I'll just maybe hang out there for, however long. And some of it is just a little bit of rapport building, and then I'll, work with them, and then I'll kind of get up and leave. But unless I'm sort of frantically trying to prepare for the next part of the class, if I didn't do so the day before, which I should have, yeah, I'm always sort of on the move. Also, I don't know about you all, maybe people have different opinions about this, but personally, I actually really like a loud classroom. I think a loud classroom where people are talking. I mean, you're gonna have maybe like a 70-30% like on topic conversation versus 30% just like not related to the class conversation. I actually think that that's okay. When I go into a classroom where it's silent, to me it's super awkward, and I really question if it's being utilized. So I don't know, things you can do to kind of, I think if your classroom's loud, but people especially it's loud because they're feverishly talking about the project and they're asking each other questions and stuff, I think that's a good sign of good health of a classroom. And, I do think we want to emphasize that asking your peers for help, it's not like cheating. We don't really, we don't really look at that in maybe the same way as they do in other classes. Certainly want people to have their own amount of self-discovery. In iOS, it's maybe even a little different than cybersecurity. But yeah, I think we want to also encourage collaboration between peers as well.
Yeah, I've even heard some people play like music in the background while people are working on labs and stuff, so there's not like an awkward silence. That could even be something interactive where you ask students to come up with a playlist or add songs or whatever it is. Different tactics.
Yeah, I mean, this should be like your, kind of everything. I want to empower you to make this class anything that you've ever wished a class was. I mean, you totally have that that power. So if you're always like, man, I wish my algorithms professor would like actually like put on some music because it's just so dry in here or something like that. Like, go ahead and put on some music or do whatever. Design it, to be your sort of ultimate class. And I think that the students will really appreciate that.
And for those of you who are working with professors, you could also collaborate with the professors. I'm sure they would be more than open to hearing your ideas as well and what you think the classroom could look like. So don't think that just because you have a professor running the class doesn't mean you can't have any input. And if they give you any trouble, just tell them, but Charlie said I could. No, I'm kidding. So if you go to, I'm going to move to slide 3. You don't actually have to look at it as you go through. This is more so you can reference it later. But I wanted to just cover a couple things that we were very deliberate about when we were designing this TPM training. And also one thing to note is that trainings require a certain level of flexibility, as you'll find in the classroom, based on the pacing of your students, based on external circumstances. So definitely the TPM training has changed and morphed as we went through it. But there are a couple components of it that we were very deliberate. So sharing an agenda and calendar beforehand. Having actually students sometimes lead the topic overviews or sessions. Having these awkward icebreakers. Having breakout rooms and student peer collaboration. And then having the facilitators bounce from breakout room to breakout room. I would love to hear from you guys what you think are the benefits of some of these things, but at the risk of sounding a little bit too Socratic or patronizing, because I think it seems a little bit evident, but I just wanted to more call them out. I think it's really important that you guys know what you're going into in the day and what you're kind of going to walk away with. The icebreakers, you can kind of see the difference actually when you do them and you don't do them. You don't see them on the first session, by the way. You'll see them on like the 3rd, 4th, 5th session, especially when you compare them to other sessions. You'll be able to see how they start to diverge, and it gets pretty significant towards the end. The breakout rooms, again, online, it's really difficult to do vibrant breakout rooms, but as Charlie called them pods, that's definitely something you can use in your own classrooms. Even if they're doing independent work, even having students in smaller groups sitting next to each other as opposed to just in a line, it encourages collaborations. It encourages like easy question asking. And then having just like Miguel mentioned, like how their TPMs kind of walked around the room, or as Charlie said, he's like to be up in their business. Like, don't be shy to kind of put yourself out there and say, hey, how's it going? Do you need help with anything? Or that code looks really good, or it kind of looks like you're stuck. Can I help you out? So don't be shy to engage. These are components we included in the training to give you guys kind of a taste of what they might look like in action. And these can manifest, however, according to your style and your own sessions. So the next 3 slides, or I guess the next 4 slides, are actually taken from coachpath.com's resources. I'm not going to go through them with you. I put them in so you guys can have a look at them. But out of the years and years of like incredible experience that our founders at codepath.com have amassed, they've learned like what it really takes to make super teachers. And so Nathan has very diligently documented a lot of his experience and expertise. And so we included some of the parts. Not all of them will be completely relevant to your course necessarily, but whether you're cybersecurity or iOS, but I think you kind of will understand the gist of it. So slide 4 covers metrics that you and we use to say what is successful. So we don't really just care about grades in a classroom. We really, really care about completion rates. We really, really care about student satisfaction. We call it a net promoter score. So during the surveys, we also always ask students like how likely are you to like recommend this to a friend? As well as like the quality of the actual work, which for cybersecurity could be grades, and then for iOS could be more like the ratings of the iOS projects. A lot of the stuff you can kind of get a sense of just by talking to students, or not a lot. Number 2, you can get a sense of kind of by talking to students. So before class, after class, maybe hang back. You can get real-time feedback from them and then give it back to us. And literally like on the fly, we want to be working with you to be solving student dissatisfaction. That's a huge part of our course philosophy, is we want students to have a great experience. Number 5, or slide 5, are just best practices, like guiding principles for when you are presenting a session. So focusing on the code, being interactive, answering why you're doing what you're doing, which is something that we've all talked about. 6 is things to not do, are anti-patterns, as he calls them. Be sure to avoid these 3 common teaching pitfalls. And then number 7 is a shorter list of do's and don'ts, or I guess a longer list of do's and don'ts that actually we came up with kind of together. So I wanted to include our work in there too as TPMs. So are there any questions? I know I breezed through those. You guys will have plenty of time to go through on their own, but does anyone have any questions about that? Great. So slide number 8. We are going to give you guys 15 minutes in your pairs. I've already made all the breakout rooms. And what I want you guys to do is just pick a topic that you really like, one of the weeks. A topic that you really like or you're really comfortable with. We want you to come up with a creative, interesting, and or engaging way that you would do a pre-introduction of the topic. So for example, would you want to show like a funny video about SQL injection? Or is there like a cool, I don't know, would you want to start with like a cartoon? Would you want to start with a story? Would you want to start by asking students to share what they know about the topic? Whatever it is, we want you to just create a like 5-minute, 3 to 5 minute topic introduction. You're going to plan it with your co-TPMs. And then we're going to ask you to actually present it to another university's TPMs. So I'm going to combine the breakout groups after 15 minutes. And what you'll do is you'll each present to each other, and then you're going to give feedback. The kind of feedback that we'd like to see is feedback on their presentation skills. So like, how do they sound? Do they sound enthusiastic? Do they sound confident? Do they sound approachable? How creative were they in the delivery? Do you have any ideas for how they could be more creative? Or are there things that you can highlight? Like, hey, this was really cool. I definitely would want to see more of this. And as well as delivery. A delivery and presentation, I think, actually are quite similar. I put in one little link called Ask Good Questions. That's a short video by this guy who claims to be like a phenomenal facilitator, but he kind of covers why it's so bad to start with open-ended questions. He's a very engaging speaker. So if you want to watch that in your TPM groups, you can. It's quite short, but it's just a good way to think about how to open a question and why. So do you guys have any questions before I put you guys in breakout rooms and start the 15-minute timer?
Oh yeah, I have one question. For our course, right? Where each time we finish our week, do we have every student fill out a survey? Because I saw at the TA tab there's like a survey. Is that for students to fill out every end of each week?
No, we're gonna do. We just have this midterm survey and a final survey.
Oh, okay. I was like, giving them a survey every week, that'd be a lot of surveys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What would be really cool is if you guys could just take a note at the end of each week, kind of like how you thought that session went, and then you can kind of see if you think you're improving or not improving, or if you. So that's kind of more like a personal thing you can do.
Okay.
Like, but thank you for clarifying that. At one point we were thinking about doing weekly, but we're like, that's way too.
Yeah, that's too many. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So everyone has been assigned to a breakout room now. A couple people will be mixed universities for now, but most of you guys or everyone who's here, I'm putting you with your university. So Charlie and I will be bouncing around the rooms. We'll give you guys 15 minutes, and then I'll double up each room. See you guys in a bit. Yeah, so what you're talking about is what we call framing or priming students. So that's super important. It's basically letting people know what they're going to do before they do it, and also linking topics back to the homework and the main topic. So that's very, very good feedback. Good job to whoever reminded you of that. It's a good reminder for all of us.
I actually had a question about that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
So the first day of class, like we had wanted to basically pull up like the Security Shepherd page and pull up the CTF so we could show the students the page, like how to like navigate it sort of, but our accounts aren't open anymore. Are we going to have an account to those?
Yeah, so what we're doing this semester, you probably remember, you were in the fall semester, is that right?
I just did the training course. I haven't really done anything before this, if that's
okay, cool. So then you missed out on a little bit of a kind of organizational debacle that we had. But the long and short is what we'll be doing is creating accounts ahead of time for for students for both Security Shepherd and creating tokens for the CTF. Sorry, is my internet okay? I'm getting an unstable thing. All right. And then, so yeah, by the first day of class, basically maybe like 2 or 3 days before class, they'll get an email that says, that's like an introduction kind of to the platforms, like, and has them go and kind of register their accounts with the credentials that we've created for them. So they'll have at least, they should be registered pretty much before they come in, but some of them will need to register that day because they won't have seen the email, but they probably don't know where to navigate, say, to see like how the game board works, how the filtering of the, you know, how to figure out which flags are for which week and where do I find the leaderboard and stuff like that.
Right, but will we get an account again? Like, will I be able to do the challenges again on my own account, or will only they have accounts?
That's a good question. So either can happen. Would it be, maybe tell me what you'd like and I can make that happen. Would you think it would be beneficial for you to have an account?
Ideally, yes. So like the week before, I'd be able to like redo the challenges to kind of remind myself of like any challenges that I would have going through it, and also like being able to pull it up. Like, so if everybody in the class is having the same issue, I could pull up my account and pull up that specific challenge and then walk them through it. And so I think that would be helpful to be able to do.
Okay. Cool. All right. I put a note in here, and so we'll get that going, and we'll
Awesome.
message you. We'll message you the same stuff.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Good, that was a great suggestion. Thanks, Mariah. Vincent, you're up.
Yeah, that's a good idea because that's what I told Patricia to do, to set up an account for me also. That way I could, you know, see what we're doing, to remind myself of what we're doing. Yeah, so yeah, I think everybody should have access to it also, besides the students. All the TPMs should have access to the Security Shepherd also.
Was Patricia able to set up an account for you?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, she helped me.
I'll talk to her about that. Cool.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's a good idea to have like a group, like a messenger or like Facebook or like Slack. That way you could connect with all the students or like discuss something. Like if like someone has a problem on something, somebody else might have the same problem. So that way you could all communicate with each other rather than help, you know, individually through email or whatever.
Yeah, and so one thing, I'm glad you brought that up. One thing I really want everybody to stress, because we've never had full adoption of this, and I'm always a little bit surprised because I think it's such an amazing resource, but it's the discussion system. We actually have, you know, people that are even contracted to make sure that they have certain response times within, you know, like an hour or so, just standing by basically all the time for both iOS and cybersecurity. So we really want to make sure that we're encouraging students like to ask, because it's like literally, I mean, I've seen discussions questions where our support people are like, literally on iOS, they're downloading the project, they're going into the repo, they're running it, they're debugging it, something that would probably take me like, you know, it's taking the support people probably like an hour to even just do for a given question. But I mean, that's what they're there for. And I think it's definitely a differentiating factor of this class, maybe than other classes. I'm not sure if a regular class, usually you're able to just say like, I can't do this question, I can't do this on my project, like help me, and you'll get a response soon. So students should definitely be doing that. So I think, especially on the first day, demoing, like, how do I get to the discussion system? You know, yeah, and you can show them from the course portal. There's a link, or they can go to, you know, whatever the URL, and, you know, how to use it, and that they should be posting, you know, often, anytime they get stuck, basically. So, yeah, cool.
Great. Anyone else like to share from their breakout sessions?
Actually, I wanted to share something that I thought Purdue and us at CCNY did very well was examples, like show examples of like how it relates to like the real world, or how it basically works, because students will like understand it a lot better when they can see an example of it or it just happening in action. So I thought that was something that both our groups did very well.
For anyone who's curious how Purdue and CCNY did it, I think theirs will show up in the recording just because the recording follows me, I think. But I really liked CCNY did a little skit where they were explaining encryption, and they used humor. And it was interactive because it was like, do you see what I'm sending? Oh yeah, I do see it. And then like, okay, now can you see it? And it was like, so there was a lot of really interesting elements of like humor and real world application and then explanation. And then Claudia made a good point of like, when you're presenting an example, like make sure to link it back to the topic, or else like you have a great example on its own, but then you're like, oh yeah, what does this mean? And also Purdue actually pulled up a, it wasn't a screenshot, it was a demo of an app, right? That you made, Siraj?
Yeah. I can show it if you guys want. I don't know.
Yeah, why don't you go for it?
All right, we made it in like a minute or so, so it's not very good. But the idea was like we're showing animation, so we're like, normally you have buttons that are pretty boring where you click, it doesn't really do much, but then you have an exciting button where you can click it, it scales and rotates around. And yeah.
Yeah, and so they use that to illustrate different types of gestures and like on the iPhone. So that's kind of cool. Anyone else want to share something, an interesting thing you saw or a helpful piece of feedback you heard?
The other group used a comic to kind of lead into the topic, and their topic was SQL injection. And if you don't know what it is or why it's like why it's bad, then the comic was a really good way to demonstrate like real world consequences of that without being like too serious.
Is that again?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
There we go. In the chat.
All the comments in the chat. And Sean, how did they introduce it? How did they talk about the comic?
Well, their comic was kind of, they introduced like the basics, and then they used the comic to like lead into the lesson. So I thought that was like a good stepping point from like going from intro basics to comic and then to this week's topic, like to the details.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing, Sean. Any last thoughts? Okay. So we have 20 minutes left. What I think is really, really important, and I cannot stress enough, is to go on your organizer dashboard and update the logistics slide tab, the logistics details on your course. Right now, we're missing pretty much the only people we have right now, I think, is, one second, let me pull it up. Charlie, do you have the list of universities that are missing?
Oh, sorry, not off the top of my head. Is it in the Trello board?
No, she slacked it to us. Let me just pull it up real quick. Okay, I can't find it right now. I don't know why. But yeah, please do. Is anyone blocked on filling out their course details? Like, because I think only 3 universities have done it out of like the 13. So are there people that just like haven't gotten the details yet? Like, are you blocked, or is it just a matter of you don't know? Is it unclear like how to use the dashboard, or do people have any questions about that?
I did tentatively, but I'm kind of not super clear on all the logistics yet because like this past semester we did it not for credit, so that was really simple. And now we're doing it as a 4-credit class, so it's going to mirror the university schedule more. And I need to figure out how that's going to work when it's more often, but like has to take the entire semester time-wise. I'll talk to the professor.
Okay, you're in touch with the professor?
Also, I don't know exactly how we're going to get people in the system too, because they're registering, generally through the university course portal rather than through CodePath directly. So I think we might have to just have them sign up through an email link or something.
Yeah, so what we do is we ask the professor to send us the list of students that have signed up on your course registrar and their emails, and then CodePath will email them saying, hey, sign up using this link.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure you notice that. Actually, a different person than I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to need to handle that, but.
Cool. Anybody else have any questions about the organized dashboard? Okay, so that's the final thing, is just please, please, please fill them out. If you don't have the details, let us know. I think Pat is, she is messaging you guys kind of one-on-one. So if you see her email, just please let her know. Okay, guys, my final question for you all is, we have bi-weekly meetings planned. So basically from here on forward, every 2 weeks, the plan is to sync up, not for more than 15-20 minutes. Ideally, it can go longer if need be, but we just want to give you guys a space where we can get together, reflect on the week or the weeks prior. And so I just want to hear from you guys. Is there a day you would prefer? You can write it in the chat if you don't want to say it out loud, but is there a day you prefer? And then what do you guys think about timing? Like, do you guys still want them on Saturdays around this time? And if it is, or if you're suggesting a day, then what time? And then also, are there specific things that you'd find helpful to be covered in the biweekly check-ins? Okay. And just for clarity, the purpose of the biweekly check-ins is to have a space for people to share maybe concerns from the last 2 weeks, any questions. It's for us to give you updates, it's for any reminders, and just a chance for us to like touch base. And we'll do iOS and cybersecurity separately. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. Charlie and I will reach out to you when we've made a decision based on people's feedback. Is there any last questions? I think there's a question for cybersecurity, but if no one else has any questions, iOS can go, and then if cybersecurity could just stay for a few minutes. And have a wonderful week. Good luck with your classes starting. Sayana, you had a question?
Yeah, so my question was in general, like, since we have 2 class days for this course for cybersecurity, just wanted to kind of ask how the other schools or the other TPMs have done it before. Like, so do you use one whole class period to kind of go over in a lecture format and then have them do the lab in the other and then have the assignment on their own? Or do you kind of have a short lecture and have them start on the lab in the assignment right there itself, so that it's more, I mean, whichever one works or worked best in your previous experience?
That's a great question. So I know that Mississippi State had that same format last fall with the 2 class periods per week. Sam, can you comment on how you broke up the course over those 2 class sessions?
Actually, I was a student in the last fall. So we had 2 classes, and in the first class, the instructor has introduced the topic and just let us work. And in the second class also, he and the TPM assisted us if we have any problem in solving the challenges. So that's how the course was broken into 2 days for each week.
So did you have like a lecture component more, or the hands-on working time was given more than showing them the lecture, showing them examples, whatnot? So
Sam, did you have a response to that question?
Can you say that again?
yeah, no, so my question was like, so was the lecture component more? So did you spend like, let's say, an hour each week for the lecture, or do you have like a 30-minute lecture and then have them start on the actual work? Then that helped more than kind of taking them in the lecture format for a longer time. So which format? Since you said that you had the lecture, so was the lecture for a longer amount of time, or was it like a short lecture and then the hands-on stuff started?
Oh yeah, it was just a short lecture, just like lecture for 10 or 15 minutes. So it was mostly us working on the ourselves. So it was like on the first day of the week, instructor just introduced the topic briefly for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or more less than that. And then we started working. And the next day, students worked on those challenges already, and they might have some problems, and TPM just helped with the students with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm just gonna quickly call out some universities who are waiting on for session days and times. So for the organizer dashboard, we're waiting on CSUSB, which is fine because they're starting later. CCNY, maybe you guys could talk to Dr. or I guess you guys have to figure out with Dr. Rosario once we decide, but that has, we're still waiting on you guys. Facebook veterans, the days and session types have not been filled out. Hofstra, Mississippi State, St. Ambrose University, CCSF for iOS, College of St. Scholastica iOS, CUNY iOS, Morgan State iOS, UCSD iOS, and University of Texas Austin iOS.
Oh yeah, I need access to the Facebook veterans, by the way. I think I spoke with Patricia about it because I had to make like a different GitHub because I gotta do separate, right?
Oh yeah. That's a Charlie thing, I think.
Oh okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I made a separate GitHub. You could add I'll give you my GitHub account. Your mic's off, Charlie.
Yeah, if you can just, Vincent, just send me your new GitHub in an email or something, charlie@codepath.com.
All right, cool. Thank you.
.org.
Sorry. Yes, .org.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Sian, I have a question. Right before you leave.
Sure.
Okay. It's regarding
Yes.
Jane. I got a message from Jane from Coinbase.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So regarding like some position that she said she gave you like listings and procedures how to go by if someone is
Yeah.
interested.
We will be reaching out to you in the next couple weeks.
Oh, okay. No problem. Thank you.
Actually, I wanted to ask the same
Yeah, I
question.
got your email.
Because you did send me an email about it. Will that be within like this week or within the next couple weeks?
Probably within the next 2 weeks. So either next week or the week after. It depends on how much time we have to get through. But basically, we're doing initial interviews with you guys. Do you have like a deadline or something?
Not a deadline. It's just starting the 15th. Facebook is taking me and Mohammed to a security conference, and we'll be in California for the entire week. And I know we wouldn't really have time to like go over like an interview, at least for that whole week.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, it can be the week. It can be next week or in 2 weeks also.
Okay.
We'll reach out to you guys.
I guess I'll meet you guys there then.
I'm sorry, what was
Sorry?
that?
Guess I'll meet you guys at Enigma then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you guys should try to meet up if you're around here. All right, guys. I'm gonna go to bed. Bye.
Enjoy your time in Dubai.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your holidays.
Bye.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Later, guys.
All right, bye.